And they went ahead and
All right, welcome. Okay. Who is new to our user group? Raise your hands. Awesome. We have a lot of new faces. All right, so welcome to our session tonight. My name is Laura Lalonde. I'm the user group leader of this user group. It's too long of a name to say. Ken Senarelli is around here somewhere in the back. He's the co-organizer. Starting next season, I'm going to have Ken take more ownership of running the .NET sessions, and I'm going to do more of the Xamarin sessions. So if you have any suggestions, feedback, recommendations for upcoming sessions you'd like to see, topics we need to talk about, send me a message or Ken a message on Meetup, and we will be happy to discuss it and bring sessions that are of interest to you. So the sessions we bring are geared towards what you guys like as a community. So definitely keep giving us that feedback and letting us know how we're doing. All right. Why the heck is this?
it's probably automated.
Yeah, it's automated. Okay. But I still control it. All right. Special thanks to tonight's sponsors. Igloo is a sponsor for tonight's session. Because of Igloo, we have pizza, pop, water, the room, which is awesome. This is the second time they're sponsoring our user group this year, so give them a round of applause. Talk about Igloo is Gavin. Come on to the front.
Thanks, Tim. You're welcome. Thank you, Laurie. Hi, everybody. My name is Gavin. I'm here with my colleague Michael. We are from Igloo Software. We build a modern intranet platform connecting your people to the information they need to do their best work. We are hiring at the moment. I have positions at the back there that you can peruse. Web developer, platform developer, director of development, all sorts of different positions you can look at. We also have stickers, so feel free to go at the back there, grab a sticker. If you have any questions, either talk to myself or to Mike.
All right, thanks. All right, and if you love to tweet, definitely make sure you reference us in our hashtag, especially for tonight. The topic's TFS 2015 in DevOps, so include those in the tweets. And at the end of the session, be sure to rate the meetup. We love your feedback. We want to know if you liked it, comments, any questions that you have outstanding for the speakers afterwards. Post them in the meetup page after. We'll be watching that. And if there's job postings at your company that you have, feel free to go onto the meetup page and add them. It's free. Like if you're a member, you could just add job postings willy-nilly. Don't abuse it or I will block you. And when those job postings are filled, you can take them down. Or just let me know and I'll take them down. And if you're looking for jobs, check out that job postings board. So for the September 2016 and beyond season, we are looking for sponsors. So we're wrapping up this year. June will be our last session. At the end of June, Arlen will be speaking about PowerShell. Be sure to come out to that. That will be our final session of this year before we break for the summer. And then we'll start our planning for next year. Upcoming events this weekend. London has the Let's Dev This Community Roadshow. They're almost full. A bunch of us are going to be out there. Tom is running it. Tom, say hello to everybody.
Yes. For those that don't know me, my name is Tom Walker. I run the London.net user group. We're partnering up with your group. So to let you guys know, I've opened up a few more spots for you guys. So please check out that link. Register for the event. We'd love to have you guys there. So we're basically taking some of the talks from Bill, so basically talking about some Azure. So these are going to be the more intermediate to advanced. Max is going to be there. I wish Dave was going to be there. So we're going to talk about Azure. We're going to be talking about web stuff as well. And
I'm going to be there.
And you're going to be there. Yes. Oh, sorry. Laura's going to be there talking about Xamarin as well. Ken's going to be there to help out, moral support. Appreciate it.
And he's talking.
He's talking as well.
Are you talking?
Yeah. You're doing the core stuff, ASP.NET core stuff, correct? Perfect.
Yeah. Sit down. All right. Bill Toronto. What?
Can I add one more thing?
Yes.
We've had a request for people, if anybody's coming from KW to carpool. So if you are leaving from KW and you have room in your car, can you come see me? I know of one person, possibly two, who would love to go to London, share the ride, share the gas, get to know one another, that kind of thing. So at the break, come see me and I can pick you guys up. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. And Bill Toronto's coming June 10th, and a bunch of well-known Microsoft speakers are going to be coming out, giving a shortened version of all the top stuff that was talked about at Build. A bunch of us are volunteering out there. It'd be really fun to see you guys out there. It's a free event, so you can go online. Registration's now open, and we'll hope to see you there. Hacker Nest is running their next meetup at Clear Path Robotics on June 13th. I know I'm definitely going to be there because it's just down the street from me, so I'm probably going to walk there. So it's really cool. Definitely come up to that. And if you're looking for Kanban training, there is a session coming to town run by Alexi. He's giving a discount off to our members, so the discount code is Xamarin, and you get 20% off. DevTeach is coming to Montreal. That's in July. I'll be there attending just because there's some speakers there that I want to stop. So I'm really excited about that. And without further ado, I will let Mr. Lloyd.
Hanging out with you guys again. Let me just, I knew that was going to be the problem as soon as Laurie stole my...
I'm sorry.
Man.
Just
Okay.
introduce yourselves while you're...
Yeah, I will. But I got a slide for that.
Oh, okay.
See, look, now you've completely
His flow's all.
shot my... It's okay, we'll be back now. So, for those that don't know me, my name's Dave Lloyd. I've been here before. I think I've been here once every year for the last, I don't know how many years.
Yep.
Talking about something or other, usually TFS related. I got a buddy of mine with me today, Max Yermakinov, and he is going to help me do a little talk about Team Foundation Server, how you can use Team Foundation Server to enable DevOps. So we kind of work as a team. We're both ALM MVPs. We're both curriculum authors and trainers. Max teaches the admin side of TFS, and I teach the developer side of TFS. So I know branching, and he knows configuration and upgrades and installs and all the stuff that I do not know. So together we make a good team. And we've been doing a lot of work with a lot of clients in the DevOps arena. And no, I didn't know that.
Thank God Max is here to put that in.
I know, right? See, I told you, he's the infrastructure guy.
That's why he's here.
He's the infrastructure guy.
There you are.
There we are. Yeah, so we do a lot of work with customers in Team Foundation Server, from anything from upgrading, installing, to, helping the dev teams, QA, BAs use it, to now what's become much more popular is DevOps. Being able to do continuous deployment and provisioning and spinning up machines on the fly instead of having to have an old dusty QA box somewhere that nobody knows what state it's in. So we're going to talk about some of that kind of stuff tonight. Sound good?
Yep.
Beautiful. This is our agenda. It's pretty loose. I'm going to talk a little bit about planning. I'm going to show you. The last time I was here, I did a talk on strictly Release Manager. So it was shortly after TFS purchased Release Manager from InCycle in Montreal and brought it into the product, and I kind of showed you guys how to incorporate that into Team Foundation Server and use it. Things have changed. So we're now at TFS update 2. Actually, 2.1 is the latest one. 2.1 is actually just a whole bunch of bug fixes on top of 2. But we're at that's the latest version for on-premise. And Release Manager does not look the same anymore. So we're going to show you what that looks like. So I'm going to take us through some planning, show you the boards and that in Team Foundation Server, talk about builds, set up a build of a couple of things, and then I'm going to hand it over to Max, and he's going to do some release management and talk about extensions and service hooks. Anything you want to add to that?
Okay.
All right.
Get going.
It sounds like a plan.
Love Max's laid back.
I drove for like an hour and a half.
Max just left. Yeah, what time did you leave at? 4?
Yeah, 4 o'clock.
So 4 o'clock, he was still at the CBC building on Front Street at DevOps days.
Looking for the capybaras?
For DevOps Hackathon.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So the only slide we've got, really, this is the only real slide, is I just want to let you know, for anybody who's wondering, that we are using, what you're about to see is Team Foundation Server 2015 Update 2. So many people in the room use Team Foundation Server? How many? Oh, nice. Is that because of all the talks I did?
Make sure you set your display too, by the way.
I'm good at, what's that?
Display.
Did it?
Yeah.
Hey, what is going
it's
on?
PowerPoint doing that to you.
Is it? Doesn't usually do it. Let's see. Well, that explains why my... That's better. That's much better. So of those people, how many people are on 2015? There's quite a few. You guys are like way ahead of Toronto. How many people are still on 2013? 2012? 10? 8?
No, BSS.
So safe.
5? We haven't got there yet. 5? We have VSS?
That's only because the clients. using it.
4.6D?
That's right.
Okay, that's a good mix. So you guys have a good little a mix of what you're used to seeing in Team Foundation Server. So some of this will be new to some of you, but not everybody. I guess we'll. I'm not going to do too much in the web interface, but I'm going to show you some new stuff that you might or might not have seen. So this is the 2015 web interface, and it now comes with dashboards for each of the teams, which I am actually falling in love with as I use them. So, and every team that gets one, we assign a team administrator and show them specifically how to get going, setting up the dashboard. So at customers where I work, each team has their own dashboard of, some teams have build, some don't, depends on what that team does. Some teams are doing continuous delivery, some aren't. Some they're just showing issues and bugs, but everybody has their own kind of look and feel. And you can, so everything on here is completely editable. I can just go down here and go into edit mode and then add different things to it. So I can just pull in builds or charts or find out code churn, see where people are checking in code. I can just add markdown language if I want. That just kind of lets me put links up or whatever it happens to be. So I'll get teams that actually put up all the documentation. It almost kind of becomes like I hesitate to call it a wiki, but a place to put information that new people on the team need to go to find out, what do I have to install? How do I get connected? Where's the source? What do I do? And that kind of thing. So it's really nice. And the other cool thing that you can do here is I can add multiple of these. So you see I've got an overview tab, but I could add in, for the same team, I could have a QA dashboard, or I could add in a VA's dashboard.
I'll just let the few people.
Nice. And of course those, yeah, backstage. So you can flip between you can have multiple dashboards for different focuses, and then over here on the little gear you can go in and just clean things up or change the names or do whatever you want to do with them. Anybody using those? Nice. They're good, eh?
Yeah. No, go back.
Go back to where?
Yeah, this one. See that button, auto refresh?
Yep.
That's new.
Yeah. Actually, it is new. And actually, it came out in 2.0.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. So let's go into the backlogs and take a look at what kind of things we've got to do. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to kind of just talk a little bit about the backlog and show you some of the new stuff in the Kanban boards, and then we're going to go over and create a build so that Max can go and deploy it.
Yeah, I'll do all the heavy work.
Or he hopes he can deploy it. We'll see. We'll see. We didn't practice together, by the way, so who knows what'll happen. So when you go into work in the web interface, we have a couple of different views in here that you can get to. And at first, it's a little bit confusing for people, I find, until you kind of get the sort of the lay of the land. First thing is, I'm looking at this within the context of a team. So right now, I'm looking at the web team's view of the world. If I go down, I can switch over to the devices team, and you'll see things kind of change up a little bit. And I've got different stuff to look at. We get different iterations, different work items appear. And if I go into Browse All, I can see that my project is actually divided up into 4 teams. I've got a database team, a dev team, an ops team, and a web team. And I can navigate to any one of those and see the world as it's seen from that team's point of view. So this is the database team's backlog. This is the web team's backlog. Okay? Within here, you've actually got, and they've changed this. So those of you that are using 2013, this whole screen behaves very different now in 2015. We've always had the features or the epics features, backlogs, that kind of hierarchy up here. And when you picked one, there were these little boxes. I don't want to go too deep into this, but you guys know the little boxes that sit here that let you say, oh, I want to see features. But then you can go down and click on the box next to backlog items and say, now show me backlog items within those. And then you can see the tasks within those. Well, they got rid of all that because it was a little bit confusing. And the problem was you just get into a certain view that you liked, and as soon as you refreshed, it was all gone and you had to start over again. So they listened to user voice and the community, and they came up with what they have now. So essentially, I'll just give you the 50,000 foot view of it. If I go in and pick features, I'm essentially seeing all the features that are assigned to the web team. If I go to backlogs, I see all the bugs and backlogs that are assigned to the web team. Now, if I go, let's actually switch over to devices for a second, and I'll show you what that means. If I go over to features and expand this, notice how some of the boxes are solid and some of them aren't. So the solid boxes mean that this story is assigned to this team. The hollow box means it belongs to another team. This is an awesome view. So now I can put in a feature or a story or whatever, an epic, whatever it happens to be, and then right in my backlog I can kind of expand it and get full context of everything that has to be done for this. But I can understand very quickly that some of this belongs to other teams and some of it belongs to my team. Really nice little view of the way that is. Let's go back over to the web team for a second. The other thing that they've done a whole lot of work on, oh, by the way, while you're in here, you can kind of work your way backwards. So I can start at features, but the problem, the funny thing about this is it only shows me the features that are assigned to my team. If I go to backlog items, I'm seeing all the stories. So I might see stories in here that belong to other features. So I wouldn't have seen those stories in that other view, right? Because they're not my feature. So you got to kind of watch and make sure. You might see something disappear. Just be careful what view
Don't belong to any features.
What's that?
Don't belong to any features. Unparented.
Yeah, true. You should see them as unparented. Yeah, you would, wouldn't you? You can see them as unparented. But you can also say, I don't think that happens until you do parent show. I think that. Yeah, but you have to do that. So, so you'll see here, as soon as I say parent show, it shows me the parent of everything that I'm looking at. So now I've got my backlog view, but I can see it in the hierarchy. And as Max pointed out, there's certain things that don't belong to a feature, and they just show up as an unparented item. So I still get that view. So between these two and flipping between parent, hide, show, you're going to get sort of the whole picture that you want. And then on the Kanban boards, they've done a lot of work. Those of you that, how many people use the Kanban boards in TFS? A few. Good. What version are you guys on? 15? Nice. In 2013, the Kanban board, well, in 2012, they were here, and you could do some manipulation of them. You could actually insert new columns and give them different names and things like that, and set your WIP limit and stuff. But now they've given us the ability to do a whole bunch of things. So if you go over to the gear here and take a look at columns. So for example, I've got my approved column and my committed column. I might want to divide committed. This is a Scrum team, so it's just committed. But I might want to divide that up between my QA and developers. So I could add in another one, call it dev, and we'll change committed to QA. And maybe I want to split those two columns because I want to show doing and done as well. And maybe for dev, I want to put in a definition of done, like unit tests passing, code review complete. So there's my definition of done. I can add swim lanes. So if I want to add another swim lane into my Kanban board so that I can, stuff that's hot out of production that I really got to fix right now can take on a different priority than everything else. I can add those as well. So watch when I bring this out. So now take a look at the board. Actually, let's go full screen with it. So I've got my new at one end and I've got my done at the other end. We'll just tuck those away. But now I've still got my approved. My dev has doing and done in it. My QA has a doing and done, so I can bring it into doing. Once it's finished, put over and done. Now somebody in QA knows to be able to take that over. Right here is a reminder before I move it to done. I better check that I've done everything. Make sure it's all good to go. I'm still showing the same old stuff with my WIP limit. That's all still there. The other thing that we've got is on the tiles themselves. So I can go in here and edit the tile. Right? I can go in and change stuff. But there's sometimes things that you just want to see right on here, like who it's assigned to, the remaining hours, or the effort, the number of tasks. and whether or not those tasks are completed. And if you want to add more stuff to this, like maybe you want to see the severity of a bug, we can go into here and say, go to fields. So I'm on cards now, and I can just add a field in, and I can just pick from the list of fields. Let's grab severity, bring that back. And now you'll see I get the severity of a bug shows up right on the tile, and I can edit it from here as well. The other nice thing, I like these little, let's see if we can bring this guy over to approved. These are the tasks that are associated with this story. So when I click on it, it actually shows me, drops down and shows me all the tasks and the ones that are finished and the ones that are still being worked on. It's a really nice, easy to get to views of things. Really nice way to understand exactly what's going on in the team. So there's a whole bunch of stuff in there. This stuff isn't new, but they've also got, where was it? Right here. Yeah, you can decide how you want to deal with bugs now. Used to be bugs just sort of never showed up anywhere, but now you can decide. You can have them show up as tasks in the task board, or you can have them show up as stories in the backlog. Or you can leave them out altogether and create your own queries to access them if you want. Well, it's nice for each team. The nice thing is, each team, as they customize this, this is theirs. So this is the web team's Kanban board. If I go over to the devices team, theirs can look completely different. Cool. All right.
Kanban boards are especially useful with IT, ops teams, because they don't actually, they're more reactive than proactive. So it helps you work better.
Any non-dev groups in the room that use a Kanban board to track the work?
Maybe not that doing it.
Okay then.
I'm just gonna go.
No, Max, stay. A couple other quick things in here, and then I'm going to create a build for you, and then we'll make a little change and see if we can get Max to deploy it. So on the iteration backlog, it really doesn't change a whole lot. Looks very similar. The board has some new features in it, though. The task board, for anybody who uses it, very similar to the Kanban board. I can add fields and different things now onto the tiles in the board. I can also set up styles, so this is really nice. If you want to change the color of a tile, for example, on a bug, bugs that are greater than 30 days old, you might want to change them to look pink. And then as they get older, they get a darker and darker shade of red. So you can do that now in here. You can change the style and set it up to do things like that. Or if it's a task for a particular of a particular priority or of a activity, you can change its color. So testing tasks could be a different color than dev tasks, than deployment tasks. So lots of that kind of stuff, not only in the backlog, in the Kanban board, but also in the task board. Under the capacity planner, anybody use the capacity planner? Each question I get less and less people. We're just us three right now. So in the capacity planner, so let me tell you a little bit about the capacity planner. This is fantastic. And I use it for teams. You don't have to be an agile team or a scrum team to use it. Are you guys scrum? Are you guys agile? Okay. Agile-ish? Yeah. And yeah, at the back you are? So it's a great tool for that, obviously, because iterations fit very well into that, but you don't have to be. So for those that are less familiar with Team Foundation Server, one of the concepts in TFS is having iterations. And all an iteration is a way to divide up work temporally. So it gives me a way to say, here's a time period, and here's the work I'm going to do in it. So for an agile team or a scrum team, that's a sprint, right? It just makes sense. It's a sprint. So if your sprint is 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever, you define sprints like we've got here, and we just drag the work right out of the backlog into the sprint to say, here's when I'm going to do this. So if I look at this guy right here, I might take this thing and say, I'm going to do that in sprint 4, and I can just drop it into sprint 4, and away we go. So those sprints, each iteration has dates associated with it. So you'll see this one was from May 16th to May 27th. There are 3 days left in the sprint. On the team right now, these are the players. So these are the people that I have available to me to do the work that's in this sprint. Now keep in mind, a sprint is just time. So I've got a team right now that has a milestone coming up on June 15th, and they put that in as an iteration. and they've put all the work into it. Now this thing's gone over a couple of months, but it really helps because it gives the project manager something to look at, right? The project manager can now come in and see how much work they've got left to do. Are they going to be done by June 15th? It makes it really easy to do. So what I can do is in here I've got each of my players. A couple of new features, by the way, in 2015 is that I can add temporary people as well. So somebody might have kind of joined my team for a sprint just because we need their expertise on something. So I can just add those in on the fly, and they don't have to be a member of this team, and I can just pull them in. The other thing that's new is we can define activity per person. So, Adam might actually be QA, and Annie is a developer. Oops. Is development, and Brian's development, and et cetera, et cetera. And I can so if I'm tracking everybody's work, I can put in what kind of activity they actually do. The really nice thing is, and the problem is, a lot of times people do more than one thing. So people don't bother using activity because they go, well, I'm just giving Dave a task. And, it might be a testing task, but it also might be a deployment task, or it might be a development task. But now I can actually divide that up. So I can add activities. So I can say that Adam does development and testing. And he pretty much splits that down the middle. So he spends about half his time doing testing and half doing development. So I can actually reflect that kind of stuff. So of course you can put in the number of days off people have. And of course you can decide how many days a week people have to work. So if you check Saturday, people will work Saturday. Try it. TFS is very powerful. Very powerful. So between, and then we put in the number of days off that they've got, or if there's, stat holidays or something, we can put them in for the whole team. So really easy, when at the beginning of the sprint, you essentially just hit this button to copy over the last sprint's info, because it generally doesn't change too much. You fill in, if there's any changes in the capacity, any days off people have, and that gives you this work details down the side. And it lets me know that as a team, we're fine. There's 54 hours left in the sprint, and we got 24 hours worth of work assigned to the team. But Annie is actually over capacity. She's only got 9 hours left based on the number of hours she works on this team, and she's got 11 hours worth of work. So as soon as one goes pink or red, I can very quickly notice it and reassign that to somebody else, or talk to Annie, figure out what we're doing. Maybe she just hasn't updated her tasks, but super powerful tool. And I get lots of people say, oh, we're not agile, so we can't use that. Nope, you can. Absolutely you can. Yep.
So in the real world,
Yeah?
you're a developer and you're doing testing, you're doing documentation, you're doing various activities,
Yep.
but you're creating tasks, but you're not necessarily assigning the tasks. So between those two, you don't really get a good
Right.
prediction of what you're doing. Do you recommend a way to avoid those?
Well, no, so you're absolutely right about that. And here's what I kind of do in that, when it's that kind of situation. The reason you would use activity is just for granularity. So you'll notice when I put in testing, watch over here on this side. When I pick testing, it all of a sudden adds the testing to it. So now I can see, I can get the whole team view, or I can get the view by activity. So right now the only activity I've got is testing. So if we added another one like development, so now I can track how much development work versus testing work do I have, and then I've got the individual. So it's just granularity. Do I need to track by activity? If I don't worry about it.
Because I'm trying to track by a team. A team is broken up into QAs, BAs, and devs.
But that's all
right?
one team.
So that's one big team.
Yeah.
But when I just want to get down to the dev numbers, I can't find a good way to get this to dev.
Right.
Because they're doing testing. They're not assigning yet. Right? They don't have a specific activity yet.
So are they not creating? So do they not create a task?
Sure, create a task and pick an activity. So,
Yep.
but it may be documentation.
Right.
So you put their capacity on there, but it's not necessarily reflected. Like you can over allocate, say, testing, and get enough testing done, because your activity is across the test team and it's across the development team, so it's kind of a mix, right? So true
Right.
agile, yes.
So what you really need is a task for each of those activities.
So yeah.
To be able to
it's-
track it, right?
Yeah.
To track it, you'd have to have the documentation task and a testing task and a development task, all assigned to that person.
Right, so you have to sign, but,
Yeah.
okay, so that's the only way.
Or on track, or to not track it.
Okay.
Or not, yeah, or be more generic.
I've been
and
using the
Yeah.
area path, right, creating a sub path, trying to filter on that, but then you lose a lot of other things.
Yeah, area path. So I've tried using area path. I've been using TFS for about 11 years. I've tried to use area path for a lot of things because they leave it, right? Well, area path is just sort of this. Microsoft says, do what you want with it. You know, it really. They kind of used it for Teams, but I don't like that. I never use it for Teams. I'll always create a custom field for team, and there's a blog post I can point you to that shows you how to swap it around so it isn't using area for the team. You actually have a team field. But I always come back to, in everything I ever do, I always come back to the best thing area is for is product. So it's like, you know, if I have an order entry system and a product system, like an inventory system, that it's actually defines the system that we're working in. That I always come back to that, one way or another.
I use areas all the time for Teams. So.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, we have different. Yeah. We'll argue about it later, but we won't. No, I've got a. So when you add a custom team field and then associate it to be the team designator, then what you do is in each team will end up in their control panel. You'll have this little team tab in here, and then you say, oh, what team is this? And you pick the team from the list. And then whenever you associate a work item to that, the work item will have the team on it as well, and you associate the work item to that team, it'll show up in their backlog. So it works the same way as area. It just frees up area to be whatever area again. I don't know to dwell on this, but maybe I should. So the problem I get with it is if you're using team for area and you want to still use team to divide up across applications or products that you've got, then you end up having duplicates of it, right? So I'll have ops team order entry system and then web team order entry system. So now it makes it difficult to query for all the things that were done to the order entry system because I have to go through all the teams to find it. But
It's a very flexible tool. There's
Ve-
a lot
yeah.
of ways to get things done.
a lot of ways. So okay, let's. I'm gonna go out of there. I'm gonna jump over to builds just so that we have time for Max to talk to. I don't want to drive an hour and a half and then I just take up all his
I
time.
get to see you, so I'm good.
Yeah, that's true. It's a nice visit.
Ah.
Okay, so let's go create a build first, and I can do this fairly quickly because I built one this afternoon for us.
By the way, one of the purposes I'm using the capacity for is like I typically spread out across multiple teams on multiple projects. So on some of the teams, some of the sprints you're like 10% in, on some of them 20%. It also helps you keep track of overall. It's not that you get an overall view, but at least you know where you are, where you're red, where you have more capacity to put in. So it's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's talk a bit about builds. So this is the first step to our DevOps story, to TFS and DevOps, is being able to automate the build and generate artifacts that can be deployed. So the way the build works now, so prior to 2015, we had XAML builds, right? These are the old builds that were based on a Windows workflow process file, which were fine. They worked great. The problem with them was that whenever I wanted to do something very different, like, you know, I created a build for Power Builder, and I created a build for Java, and I created builds for all kinds of different things. And whenever I did, I had to go in and edit the XAML file. Max and I are very used to that XAML file. We've made lots of changes to it.
We hate it.
And you spend a lot of time debugging and making sure that thing's right and editing it and getting it just so. Or you try to build this one thing that builds anything you want with switches. That's even worse. So the XAML still supported. If you have XAML builds and release manager deployments, they're still going to work if you upgrade to update 2. No worries. All that stuff is still there. It'll be around for a while. Microsoft's not going to drop support of it. But I encourage you to look at the new builds. So the new builds are done all in the web interface. So you don't have to be in Visual Studio Team Explorer to do them. You do them right in the web interface.
In fact, you cannot be in the Team Explorer. It's just going to.
That's right. This is true. This is the only place you can be. Yeah. If you go over to Team Explorer now and you go to builds, you'll see we got our, there's my build definitions and my XAML one. So there's my old XAML builds. And if I open this guy up, he's just going to take me to the web interface. So that is where you do it. One thing they did really well, this little 3-inch spot right here is fantastic. This is the only place you need to go to get to navigate around this whole screen. Watch, still good. So I'll start to create one, but then I'll show you what it looks like because I've already got it built. So over here I got my plus sign, create a new build. These are all just templates that I can start from. Let's just start with empty and we'll go from there first of all. The repository doesn't have to be TF, Team Foundation Server. It can be TFVC, it can be Git, it can be Subversion. It doesn't matter. Actually, if you're in VSTS, it can be a remote Git repository or a TFVC repository. It could be all kinds of things. Matter of fact, you can actually have the build kick off into Jenkins to do the build. You don't actually have to use TFS builds. It's becoming very, very open. So here's my build. All my options are across the top here that I can change on it. And right here are the steps that I'm going to perform. So back in the XAML build, when we had this big process file that Microsoft gave us the default one, and we used that to build all our .NET stuff. And as soon as we had to do something different, we had to write our own, or find one, or edit that one, or something. Now you have essentially a blank slate all the time. So add a build step. Let's say I'm gonna do a build of Fabricam Fiber for Mac. So the first thing I want to do is I went on to GitHub and I downloaded this PowerShell file that sets the assembly info file of all my .NET code, and I've edited that thing since, and it actually changes the version of my database tool or my database projects and my IIS packages and everything. So I just want to call that. So I'm going to go down to Utilities. And I'm going to call a PowerShell script, and I'll show you what that looks like in a sec. Then I'm going to go back to build, and for those of you who have never been in here before, have a look at, can you believe what you're seeing? Android, Ant, Maven, iOS, Xcode. Crazy, eh? Who needs that stuff? So you can, so wide open. You can do whatever you want. You can build in Unix, you can build in Windows, you can do anything you want. And the proof to that is the first thing I did was I just pulled in a PowerShell. So even if you don't have an activity here to pull from, just write your own and stick it in version control and call it right from here, which is what I'm going to do.
And by the way, in the old TFS, and I mean 2013, there used to be an agent and controllers. They're all gone. So now we have agent, which is Node.js agent. So very easy to deploy. It's basically a bunch of files that you copy and run a PowerShell. And there's no controllers anymore, so there's no one-to-many dependency. One controller can only belong to one collection. Now they have pools and queues. Many-to-many, any way you want to. You can secure it for the queues. There's a lot of ways to do it. You can dig into that later if you want to.
No, that's good. I mean, what's really cool about that is you go to the machine that you want to turn into a build server, and you just navigate to the TFS web interface, and you say download an agent and set it up. So easy. Yeah, it's just really, really easy. So here I've got a few steps in here. So the first one I'm gonna go out and call build scripts. So there's my apply version to assemblies PowerShell. So there we go. Call that. Good. And then I've got Visual Studio build, and in there I'm going to build my Fabricam Fiber call center. So there's the websites.
No, go back. That was awesome. That thing that we had there before was basically saying, under this path, find me all the solution files, or the project files, or any kind of files, and build them for me.
Yeah.
So you don't long have to pick one by one.
You can do that. That's a good one, Max. Thanks.
It's a good thing you guys didn't practice today.
I've also, anybody use SSDT? SQL Server Data Tools, for those who are wondering what SSDT is. A huge fan of SSDT. All SQL Server databases should be in version control. There's no excuses for them not to be. You can build it, no problem, and then deploy it using DACPAC Deployer. I've got a BI team that has a whole bunch of IS packages and 3 databases, and they do continuous deployment every day. Every time they make a change to anything, it just goes to build, releases off into dev, gets approved by the right people to go to QA, and works its way down the line. Really great tools. So I got a couple of builds, one for my Fabricam call center, one for my database, and then I've got these guys here, and I do want to point those out. I'm going to jump over to my already built one to save us some time. So let's just edit that. So here we go. Call my PowerShell. Here's my build. So these are artifacts. So each thing that you create, you can turn into an artifact. And that artifact gets picked up by the release manager to be deployed. So, each artifact could be a database, a website, a web service, whatever it happens to be. For those of you that use 2013 Release Manager or any of the release managers, it's kind of the equivalent of a component in Release Manager. So what I've done, and I don't disagree with Max. You could just pick a folder and say, find all my solutions. But I'm very OCD. So I have to see my Visual Studio build for the website, and then I want to create an artifact for the website. And then I got to build for my database, and I'm going to create an artifact for my database. And I want to see them like that in my list.
To make things more fun, if you're using Git, you can just say any branch that's matching the following projects. Go ahead and create one build definition for all of them.
Kids.
Crazy. Wow, man, Max.
So let me just take you really quickly across here. So options, things like create a work item on failure. I don't know why anybody would do that. Picking multi-configurations, a couple little options in there.
Sorry, go back.
Yeah,
Options, multiple configurations. Now they actually do that in parallel. So if you have multiple agents, it's actually so you can queue both of them at the same time. You don't have to wait like before.
Yep. They were in parallel before.
No, they don't.
Kinda. Anyway, so the repository, a couple of options we can do in here. One, I'm going to set up to clean the repository. On a successful build, I'm going to put a label and source control, and I'm actually going to put build number. So there are a bunch of variables that you can use throughout here. There's a website you can go to, and I could rhyme it off, but it isn't going to help any. But if you look for TFS 2015 build variables, there is a whole slew of system variables that you can use in the build, and they get passed into your PowerShell scripts if you call a PowerShell script from the build. It can be really useful. So I'm going to grab my dev branch, and I'm also going to grab my build scripts. Good, got that. Now, because I've grabbed branches or folders from 2 different parts of the repository, I've got to separate them over here so that they end up in separate levels, so that I maintain my relative paths, right? And this actually presents a problem. This is a bug in 2015 that's being fixed in Update 3. So if you're used to seeing the change sets and work items that are associated to the build, that doesn't really happen anymore. What happens is it gets you all the stuff in the repository that's happened since the last build, not just the stuff in Fabricam Fiber Dev. So it's an issue. It's been fixed, but we have to wait for the fix.
You can still clone the folders, right?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, so if there's folders, if there's folders that you, like under dev, for example, if I didn't want to grab lib, say I don't need the lib folder, or there's a documentation folder or something, I can just cloak it. So essentially it says, get me everything in dev, but don't get the lib folder. Yep, still there. So variables. So I set up a couple of variables, one called major, one called minor. I'm going to use these in my build number and in my label and in all my DLLs as my version number. So I'm in control of these. So I determine when the major or minor changes. The build number is generated in the build, and the revision number is a revision within that build number. We'll see that in a sec. We've got multiple triggers like before, although this is a nice, it used to be that if I wanted to have a CI build and a gated build and a nightly build, I had to have 3 different build definitions, one for each one. But now you just make one build definition and say, oh yeah, this thing's continuous integration and it's scheduled, and by default it's manual.
And that's how you do, by the way, the regex in for the Git. So you say, if my path matches this, just go ahead and build it.
Yep.
And can you go back for a second? to
Yeah, variables, sure.
See those checkboxes on the right-hand side? So if you want those values to be able to change them on the fly, that's what you do.
Yep. You can also, if it's sensitive information, you can make it so that it's like a password field. And then general last one, so this is my build queue that Max was talking about. And then my build number format, I don't bother putting the build definition in front of it anymore. I've kind of abandoned that because you don't really need it anymore. So I take my major, so I've got variable. I set up variables for major, minor, don't forget. And when you want to reference a variable, it's just dollar bracket, the name bracket. So there's my major dot minor dot the year, so it'll be 16, and then the day of the year, because that's 5 digits to give me a unique number for the day. That's the lowest pretty much you can do, and then the revision. So my build numbers,
Fancy.
well, thanks. My build numbers, I'll show you them in a minute, will end up being 1.0.16048 dot whatever, right? I'll show you them. Used to have this thing called tags. Remember tags in the old builds? Where you could say, that's a Java build server. That's got Java on it, so all my Java builds have to go to that machine. So that's kind of abandoned now for demands. So the build server is set up, and the build server itself has certain demands on it.
Capabilities.
Right, so these are the capabilities of that build server. And I can add my own capabilities. So if I have something special, like I got my own install shield thing or something that I wrote myself or something, I can add that in there just as a string. And then down here I can say this build needs these needs these capabilities. This build has these demands, therefore I need a build server with these capabilities.
By the way, that capability list is automatically populated from your path, from the environmental variables on the agent. So it just automatically populates, and then you can add more details.
And then we got our retention policies, so not a lot different than before. How many builds do you want to keep around, kind of thing.
It's a lot different than this.
Well, it's a lot different, but it's the same.
You can do days and a number.
Same idea.
It's huge. Still there.
This is new though.
Yes.
Now you get a history of every change you make to your build definition. So every time you save this, it'll prompt you for a comment, and you can put in a comment, and then you can go between 2 builds and look at the diff, do a diff to see what the changes were made to it.
And who made that change?
And who made that change. So, I mean, it's not quite having it in version control, but it's good.
Better than nothing.
Yeah, it's better than nothing. I'll give it that. So watch as I click around in this 3 inches. This is fun. So now, well, at least I think so. So I don't think I'll save that because I didn't do anything in there that I really want. So now I click on builds and I go to my builds. If I open one of these up, see there's my build numbers. So I've built 3 times today. Actually, I've built more than that and abandoned a few of them. Open this guy up, and here's my build report. So it'll show me, the associated change sets, any deployments. So I'll let Max talk about that. The test results. Here's each of the steps that I did, and I get my log for each one of those as I go through them. Back up to the build. I'll just go to here. So here's my timeline of everything that happened, how long each step took. Here are my artifacts that I created. So I created a website and a database. And you can decide when you create the artifact whether you want it to be in a file share like the old way of a drops folder, or you can have it stored at the server. Up to you. And then I've got any tests that I ran with it. So when you get everything all mixed in here and you've got tests running on that, it's one-stop shopping. You go to the build, you see the test results, you see the artifacts you created, you see what's in the build. I can jump back out to the beginning of it. See, for editing, I keep seeing people go over here and they're like in here and they're looking for the items, but essentially it's all right here. Builds, edit, take me between those, and when I'm in the build itself, I can jump back to that guy. So nice little navigation piece right there. Yeah.
We haven't really gotten that far into it yet, but I've noticed a lot of those on their 2015, they go in and look at the tests and they seem to fail. In 2013, you opened up in Visual Studio and you can click on that and you can open up the tests right in the Visual Studio.
Yep, you can still do that.
Equivalent to that.
You can still do that. So your tests will, the tests that run with the build will show up associated. Well, look at where I did. Will end up where I showed you associated to the build. You can also see any test runs. If you go over to the test tab, you can come on. There's a runs tab under test where you can go and look at all the test runs that have happened. But they still end up generating a TRX file that if you double click on that TRX file to open it, it'll open Visual Studio and show it to you in the test run viewer, just like it used to. Yeah. Okay, so let's, I'm going to make a change and then we'll let Max deploy that thing. Excuse me. So let's go look at the work I got to do. Oh, look at what we've done. Because I'm not on my team. Okay, so I'm on the web team. It's iteration 3, and I got some stuff to fix. So I've got a problem. So the copyright number is incorrect. So here's, I'm sure most of you have seen Fabricam Fiber before in some shape or form. It's a little Microsoft sample app, like Tailspin Toys. And if you look down at the bottom here, it says 2013 on the copyright. And the other thing that we're going to fix is that we've got a fussy customer that says they don't like it saying first name, last name. They just wanted to say first and last. It's far too verbose. So we've got those in our broken backlog here somewhere. So I'm going over to Visual Studio. I'll make a quick change. Going to go into my work. And I've previously created a work item query called My Web Tasks. So essentially, if I open up that query, it's looking for tasks that are in the state to do that are assigned to me that are under the path for web team, because we're using path for teams here. Max must have set this one up. Anyway,
Actually, yes.
Actually, yes. So change the copyright. So I'm going to drag that up to my in progress work, and we'll just pop over into my source control, and I'm going to open up my solution. So by dragging that up there, by the way, I got an awful lot of stuff open here. Let's go to the web team. You might have noticed. What's that? Yeah, it is.
Kicking
It is. It's hilarious. When Max and I work together, he'll remote into a machine, and he opens up every window on that machine and leaves it there. They're like the bar at the bottom is just jam full of stuff. And then I'll say, can I use that machine for a minute? So we're logging in as a service account or something to do something, and I go in and I immediately close all those windows. And I open the one I want, and I close it, and Max comes in, where the hell's all my stuff? We do work well together, trust me. So you notice that change copyright here has moved over to in progress. So that did that just because I dragged it up into to say my work. Anybody use my work? What? I'm down to 1. Okay, so let's go make a really fast change here, and then we'll take a 5-minute break, and then Max can kick in and do his thing. So into layout. Come on. Down the bottom here, there should be a copyright. Not that far. All right. Let's make it 2016. And by the way, on this machine, we have 3 environments set up. We've got a dev, a QA, and a production environment, and each one is just a different port. So I'm going to check this in, and then, Tom was mentioning this before. You see over here, it's set to resolve. So and that's my work item. So I can say either resolve my work item or just associate this change to it because I got more work to do. So changed copyright, and we'll check that in. Go back over to here and refresh this guy. and you'll see that thing's done now. So I'm not, as a developer, I'm not necessarily, as long as I check in against stuff, I don't have to go in and edit timesheets. It actually just took the remaining time on that and blanked it out. So I don't even have to go in and say, I'm done this thing, and knock off the time. So, there we go. We got ourselves let's go back to my build again. So we checked that in. Do you want me to kick off the build, Max, or do you want it?
No, you do.
So here we go. Fabricam fiber. That's because if it fails, I'm to blame, right? So queue up a build.
Work a
So,
lot together.
so watch the console you get now. So you see everything. This could be a Unix machine. It could be a Windows machine. Whatever it's doing, you're going to see exactly what's happening out there. And it's going through. So here's all the steps I added. Gets the source, my versioning, the Fabricam fiber, creating the artifact, and it's building my database, creating an artifact. I showed them my artifacts.
How many times have you tried to build multiple solutions at a time, and it's just showing you that it's building, and you have no idea where that is right now? What is it doing?
Yeah, what's happening?
Backlogs.
So you know exactly what's happening. And if we look in, so here are my artifacts. In my drop folder, I've got my Fabricam fiber. Here are all my builds. And if I go into 7, there's my website. So I've got a web and an extranet web. And actually, look at this. So on my properties, in the details, look at the build number. Did you think it was that easy? Watch this. Into the database. So here's my DAP pack I just built. Let's just go. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Yes, I do want to do that. And if we open this guy up, there's my version number right in there as well. So I know exactly what versions everything is. I've got a label and source control that says the same. My artifacts are sitting out on the drop folder, ready to be deployed. Thank you. I know. I still got some. And that's the new builds. So is now good? Can we take a quick break and then we'll let Max kick in?
All right, we'll take like a 5-minute break. The bathrooms are down to the left, and then just before you get to the librarian desk, make another left.